Is not karma a cause of suffering as well?
Yes, often karma has to enforce necessary developments which people obstinately refuse to enact.
Some spirits are ruled entirely by karma, which means that the knowledge of the spirit is at a minimum, and karma is the sole possibility of evolution.
Above all, we need to experience on our own body the effect of violations of the higher will, which we have committed ourselves in this or in an earlier incarnation. This explains much of the suffering which we see or endure every day.
There was a time when much of the evil karma the present race is now paying might have been paid by other means than those which have precipitated the present world crisis. But the people would not hear or obey the injunctions, nay, the pleadings of the initiates and prophets of the Great White Lodge, as they were voiced through preceding centuries, leaving the karmic law no other alternative than that which has culminated in the present worldwide struggle.
This concerns not only humanity as a whole, but also each and every one of us. A meaning of suffering is also karma allows us to pay back old debts, to remedy injuries to the cosmic order which we ourselves have created. A mature spirit will be grateful for that. Or do you want to remain indebted to the universe? Today's churches are spreading superstition worldwide when they claim that our sins may be washed away by the death of Christ on the cross or a bath in the Ganges. This is a lesson for weaklings and drillers of thin boards who are reluctant to take the responsibility for that what they themselves have brought about. The new man thinks differently. He does not require forgiveness of his sins. He asks to be allowed to make up for the mischief he has caused. He is glad when he is given the opportunity to do so.
A wise philosopher, having been sold into slavery, explained, "Thanks, evidently I can pay back some old debts." An emperor, nicknamed the Golden, was terrified. "Luxury pursues me. When will I be able to pay off my debts?" Thus have wise people thought about the quickest payment of their debts. They understood that former lives surely did not elapse without incurring indebtedness. But a man with much income must make haste in settling his accounts. It is better to purify oneself by suffering than to remain stained. I am not aware of any guilt, and yet I have to suffer.
Remember, there is not only personal, but also family, group, folk, and planetary karma. Thus, the suffering that justly afflicts someone was not always caused by direct personal guilt. It may also be based on your manifold, unavoidable, indirect involvement in everything that is happening around you. in the karmic sense, you are complicit alone by paying taxes, or by not preventing something that should not have happened. For example, cruelty to animals in industrial livestock farming.
And what about the many innocent children?
Be sure there are no innocent children. Trust in the justice which reigns in the universe. There is no effect without a cause. Merely, we humans are not always able to recognize the cause of a particular suffering, especially if it lies in a past incarnation. We can only guess at it according to the nature of the suffering. For the details, see our broadcasting Karma, the law of cause, effect, and responsibility.
If suffering is not foreseen by the cosmic order, how can I turn it into joy?
We had already seen suffering is not an objective state. It is not the external circumstances that make you suffer, but your own thoughts and feelings. One still suffers from the same misfortune at which another is already in a position to rejoice.
Suffering is a state of the consciousness.
In order to turn suffering into joy, you only need to change your consciousness and take the right mental attitude.
What kind of consciousness do I have to form for that?
As we had said at the beginning, you must know the laws of existence, the cosmic order, karma, reincarnation and immortality, the uninterrupted continuity of life, the meaning of life, as well as the usefulness of obstacles. Only on this basis can you think well, beautifully, and great. And if you think correctly, you do not need to suffer. Then you can always be happy.
He who thinks beautifully cannot suffer. What exactly does that mean?
Through this knowledge, you find suffering helps you to achieve the goal of your life, to realize the meaning of your life, which is
perfect yourself infinitely. The meaning of life is to grow greater. The meaning of suffering is to grow greater.
On this basis, your attitude changes. What appears as suffering to your perishable personality is indeed revealed as a benefit to your eternal individuality, something to look forward to.
Is it not better to suffer much, but with the possibility of advance?
What follows from that?
I am grateful for all suffering, as it enables me to grow.
Yes, like Christ on the cross, or Plato in slavery, you sense the injury very well. But because you love the spiritual ascent, you rejoice at the profit you may derive from suffering. and thus you overcome it.
These sufferings are transformed into joy, into a new spiritual ascent, provided there exists the fire of true love.
So then, why is the cosmic order so magnificent, the world a paradise, despite all the suffering on every new day?
Because it grants me so many best opportunities to grow.
Remember this wisdom.
How other people treat you is their karma. How you react is yours. What a nice picture. I have to keep the surface of my consciousness calm and smooth, whatever it reflects. A reflection is clear on a calm surface. Each agitation distorts the clarity. Likewise, the primary energy requires calmness in order to reflect truth. People talk much about the tranquility of wise men, but it is really a great tension, so great that the surface of the energy becomes like a mirror. Friend, if you want to see a clear reflection in a pond, wait until its surface becomes calm. Calmness is the garment of wisdom.
In our context, this means you alone and no one else is responsible when you allow the feeling of suffering to arise within yourself. You are unable to control the behavior of others. As opposed to that, it is in your power alone whether you react to it, annoyed, offended, hurt, irritated, or even aggressive, and thus disfigure your own aura, or whether you always behave in a calm and loving way and feel grateful and even joyful. When you suffer, this is evidence of wrong thinking, of a false attitude, a weakness, or a disease of your higher self. On the other hand, when you rejoice, however the external circumstances may look like, you are exhibiting the greatness and strength of your soul.
The sign of health of the spirit is joy of being. Joy is the health of the spirit.
The quotation we mentioned at the beginning of this broadcasting, according to which the suffering in this world ends when the ignorance ends, has yet another meaning when we refer it to the individual human being.
A wise man does not suffer,
for he knows the order of existence, and therefore he thinks in the proper way.
How should I proceed in practice?
Next time you feel pain, ask yourself, why are you still suffering instead of rejoicing? Where do you think wrongly? What is the false attitude you are taking? What is the benefit of this suffering for your ascent? On which spiritual foundation may you place yourself in order to find your way back to joy of being.
This is the path of Agni Yoga. With the right attitude to the circumstances, with the power of your spirit, you transform the thorns on your way into roses. Easy and speedy is the path of heart and devotion, which transforms all the thorns into a blossoming garden.
We notice again the huge importance of mastering your thoughts and feelings. Suffering or joy arise depending on whether you allow yourself to be carried away by the circumstances to wrong thinking or feeling, or whether you remain steadfast in an attitude that is in accordance with your higher self. We shall talk in detail about the practice of supervising and directing your thoughts and feelings in one of the following broadcastings.
The transformation of suffering into joy is a victory of the spirit over the circumstances. Joy abides in the solemn victory of the spirit.
Thereby, you achieve a true transfiguration of your everyday earthly life, without the material circumstances changing in any way, just because of a new mental attitude. You are now living in a paradise, in the highest conceivable world. You overcome the suffering and actually create
a new world in which there is no suffering. Everywhere it is indicated that suffering is the best purifier and means of shortening the path. Thus, fiery transfiguration, even on earth, lifts one beyond suffering. One should not evade suffering, for without suffering, earthly achievement does not exist. The foundation of every higher joy is suffering. Suffering precedes joy. Let us remember this.
When you have completed this learning process, you will have become a truly inviolable and invincible great soul. Then you will no longer suffer, however the circumstances may look like that have befallen you.